The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be. I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful best day ever. For those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, and we've talked about this before, Valentine's Day should be every day of the year. Every day should be Valentine's Day. Every day we should tell the people we love that they are very special to us. Make people feel important. Everybody, anyone that comes into your life. And so today I have asked my beautiful husband to come to the classroom because we want to share maybe some tools, some secrets, or something that might benefit about learning about a marriage of three. And I know all of you are tuning in because you're wondering, what's that marriage of three? But today we're going to talk about the secret sauce for my marriage with Robert. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Robert McDermott is here to do just that. And I need to bring him to the surface. Hey, babe, how are you?
Good. You got to bring me to the surface. I'm not sure what that means.
So, we're changing this format and how we come on the air. And so what happens is we're trying to figure out how to get our logo, and if any of you know how to do this, how to get our logo when we're playing the music, that would be great. Somehow it's just showing your name. So I tried to pin myself and it just wouldn't change. So just one more thing that we need to figure out together, sweetheart. So share a little bit about your background and why were you chosen to be my Valentine today?
That's a good one. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about doing an introduction of myself. We've been married for coming up on 29 years. When we met, we had custody of our kids. I had 3, you had 2. And we met primarily through our church and some other places we saw each other. Fell in love, got married, and almost 29 years later, here we are. It's a good thing that we're here today to talk about what makes our marriage successful, what makes it work. So I'm happy to be here and do that.
Well, I'm grateful that you're here too. The whole concept of this marriage of three, the concept came to me. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to type in a Q. Write the question down after the cue, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or on Telegram, because we are live on Telegram. And if you're not a subscriber, make sure that you go to the classroom, Lillian McDermott, the classroom, and join us there if you would like to do that. So the whole concept of this marriage of three came to me, and Robert was, full disclosure, Robert wasn't happy with this title. And so the whole concept came.
But you
to
can
me.
see it made no difference.
Well, it did make a difference because now I'm going to give an explanation. So what happened was when we moved back to Orlando, that we moved back to Orlando for a couple of years as we downsized and regroup ourselves, and there was a friend that was very active in his church. As a matter of fact, he was a deacon in the church. And I met him. We used to all work out together, and we met them together. Robert was not available. I went and I met the guys. And by the time the evening was over, that person tried to recruit me, and of course, eventually me recruit Robert, to save our marriage like they saved their marriage and become swingers. And so I thought, wow, that is so far from who I am and what I'm all about. But some people think that they can save their marriage by bringing a third person. And that may be true when that third person is God. And so that's why I wanted to call it a marriage of three, because in Ecclesiastes 4:12, it says, we know that there is strength in numbers. A 3-strand cord is stronger than a 1-strand cord. And so I think that the times that Robert and I have had issues with one another, and we just don't see eye to eye, it's when we've been in our ego, or we're thinking that we're alone as an island. But the reality is that when our essence comes together, God is at the center of our marriage. So anyone who thought that this was going to be about a menage a trois and introducing our third partner, I am introducing our third partner, which is God. And so if you want to, those of you who are thinking that that's what it was, please stay on to listen to what a marriage centered in Christ is like. And so we're not always perfect when it comes to this, but when it comes to putting God in the middle, I think that we've both made that decision a long time ago. What would you say about that, Robert?
Yes, we did make the decision a long time ago. Fortunately, we were living our lives as Christians when we met. We met through the church. You were active as a cantor, and I was active in other ministries. It helped us find some core values that we could align upon, and then of course raise our children with. But I like the point you're making, that there are times when I am guilty of becoming defensive or becoming frustrated, and basically I am, like you said, in my ego. And I find that the best way for me to move out of that, which I can tell without thinking about it that I'm not being productive. But the best way to move out of that is to spend a few moments in prayer. When I go into some quiet time, some prayer, I find that God helps me see things more clearly and helps me to make that shift from ego to essence. And as you said kind of quickly earlier, that's the important shift in a relationship. It's important not just for marriage relationships, but all relationships, that we get out of our egos and live and be our essence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There have been a lot of other things that we've done, but I think the most important aspect is, first of all, recognizing that God is the center of our marriage. And secondly, continue on a journey of personal growth. And that journey of personal growth can be a part of me learning about myself, or me learning about God. And I want to take a moment here because speaking of God, I know that a lot of you have loved having Dr. Lorraine Day. She's been in the classroom since 2012, 2013. She has been someone that I've met and absolutely adore. And then after her husband passed, I think it was in 2019, she has been in the classroom. So for every month, at the beginning of the month, the first Wednesday of the month is Dr. Lorraine Day. But there comes a time where people grow so much that it's time for them to start their own. And so Dr. Day and I discussed it, and she wants to start her own program. And so where she She creates the rules, she makes the rules, she does all that. So I'm sure that she'll let us know when that time comes. And so for now, she's working on that. She's also working on other things. So for those of you who are tuning in at the beginning of the month because you want to see Dr. Day, you will be able to find her, but right now she's in the process of figuring all that out. So I'm just grateful for the time that we've had together. And I said that I would address it today, so I'm addressing it today. So you can check it out with her, go to her website, and you'll be able to learn more about what she's trying to do. And she also has her Bible study. So that being said, Bible study is where I wanted to transition to. As you know, Robert and I have done the Book of Revelation with Dr. Day and also the 100 Lessons from the Exodus. We have them on DVD. We also have them online, which is much less expensive than that. And so I just wanted to share that is something that Robert and I have done, which is individually and together study God's word. So Robert, I know that you have your list. Robert and I make an agreement that we're not going to discuss what we're going to discuss until we are on the air. And I do that with all my guests too. So is there anything in particular about studying God's word? You said that helps you center and become, more into your essence. Go ahead.
I remember going to a church service and the preacher getting up to the pulpit, and he was carrying a bicycle wheel, and he used the bicycle wheel to make the point about how if you think about yourself and your spouse as at the end of the spoke close to the tire, and you think about the center as being God, as we work hard to grow closer to God, we're going up the spoke, getting closer to God, but we're also getting closer to each other. So, the way that the preacher was talking about it was that as we work hard, I know you mentioned, personal growth, and there's another whole big aspect to that, but really our growth primarily needs to come from how is our relationship with God, our own personal relationship with God, and are we taking the steps necessary to grow closer to God? And that's one could say that's the only reason we're here on this earth, is to grow closer to God. So as we grow closer to God, we're going to grow closer together. And that is something that Lily and I have found in our marriage as we've worked hard. We've gone through retreats through our church. We've gone through putting on something sponsored by the church, but not necessarily focused on the church, which was Worldwide Marriage Encounter. We've done things to grow as individuals. We've done things to grow in our life, in our relationship with God, and it's basically brought us closer together. So,
at the beginning, and I agree with you with that. But in the beginning, when I shared my story about why I called it the marriage of three with Ecclesiastes, as part of what the three-strand cord, which is harder to break than one that is less than 3 strands. When I started thinking about that, the person who was trying to recruit me to be a swinger was a Christian, was someone who was very active in their church, was someone that knew the word of God. So why would you think that someone who holds those titles would be able to be so deceived by that kind of lifestyle?
Wow, that's a tough question. It's tough because I think I'm feeling like I need to make a judgment. But the only thing I can guess is that their relationship with God is not right. And if we are close to God, we count on God giving us discernment, giving us wisdom, giving us the keys to life, the keys to relationship, the keys to success. And there's just no way that God would be giving a message about. I was reading today when I was reading I was reading James, a chapter or two of James, and there was a message in there about adultery and how it is so important not to be adulterers and to be pure and so forth. So there's no way to read the Bible, to be close to God and have that value system. So,
Well, when you're thinking about adultery as well, we compartmentalize. So I understand not wanting to make a judgment, but we are called to judgment. We are called to judgment, not to be judgmental, but we are called to judgment. What if I could have been deceived if I didn't have a strong value of what I believe? And in the Bible, it talks about how adultery, you don't even have to commit the act of adultery. You just have to think it. And so it's so important that we guard our thoughts, that we guard our, put ourselves in situations where there isn't temptation to do something else. I really do believe that when a marriage goes out, when a person goes outside the marriage to find something, then they have failed the marriage, because they need to go to their partner and say, there's something wrong here. I mean, how many times have you and I gone together and go, this isn't working out. We need to regroup. We need to figure out, how to make this a win-win or a more loving situation. And God is love. And so, what do you want to share about that? I mean,
well, somebody once told me when I was young that you don't just like reach a point and then just stay the course. You're either moving forward, getting better, stronger, or you're moving backwards, getting weaker. And so in our marriage, we have found that we've had to continuously put ourselves under a microscope, put our relationship under a microscope, and be willing to be honest, be willing to scrutinize, be willing to think through how are things going, what am I doing, and then if we've done some personal growth, both as individuals and as a couple, that have given us some tools that have allowed us to kind of scrutinize ourselves based on those tools. For example, the love languages. You had the author of that book, The Love Languages, on your
Gary
show.
Chapman.
What was his name?
Yeah,
Gary Chapman.
Mhm.
And so we realized that if we understand what is your love language compared to what is my love language, and not assume it's the same, and also know that we tend to operate from our love language as opposed to the other's love language. So I'm just using that as an example of how we've had to kind of put ourselves under a microscope and think differently. But that's an ongoing, never-ending, continuous process.
Well, that comes from, Robert, it comes from the whole concept, treat others the way you want to be treated. Well, I remember coming to you and saying, I know that once we learned our love languages, because prior to the learning love languages, and by the way, the love languages are word of affirmation, quality time, gift giving, acts of service, and touch. So it wasn't until it's like you're trying to serve and you're trying to love, but you're loving the way you want to be loved. But what if the other person doesn't feel loved that way? And Robert's big love language we discovered, and this is the beauty of coming in together and working together to on the marriage, and calling on God to kind of provide the tools or provide the opportunities to learn more. Well, in comes Gary Chapman, and he clearly states the different love languages. And both of us took the love language test prior to me doing the show. And we realized that Robert's love language was acts of service, which made sense. Every morning he would bring me my coffee when we would drink coffee. And then every night he would bring me my water. And that's really nice. And I love that he would do that, but that didn't fill my love bucket. And so it wasn't until he discovered, what are my love language, Robert?
So let's see, what was that? No. Your love language is touch and quality time.
Quality time.
Yeah, and I'm mentioning too, because most people have like a primary and a secondary.
What was your secondary?
Oh, you don't know?
Affirmation.
You know what?
Do you remember?
I know that acts of service are so strong that
Gift giving? Was it gift giving?
I don't think so. I would say it was. I don't know exactly what my secondary is.
Okay, so I would say that your secondary is words of affirmation. I think that would be.
It could be.
If I were to think about it, and now that I know that you can compartmentalize, and all of these, whether it's words of affirmation, quality time, gift giving, acts of service, and touch, all of this centered in God is beautiful. So here's the deal. Robert thought he was loving me the way he wants to be loved. So
I was.
But it taught me, when we learned about this, both of us, it taught us that it's not about, doing unto others as you would like for them to do unto you. It's really doing unto others as they would like for them to be done on, or whatever that goes.
So did you ever change
treat
that?
others.
That's the golden rule. Did you ever change that to a new?
Yeah, the platinum rule.
Platinum,
I changed that to the platinum rule because, treating you the way you feel loved. Like I was asked today, I've had so many people ask me today, where are you going? What are you doing for Valentine's Day? And I have absolutely forbidden Robert to do anything on Valentine's Day, because the last time we've done this, we would go out to this restaurant, $200 a person. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And it was like microwave crap. And I'm like, no, don't buy me flowers. I get upset when he does this on Valentine's Day. If you want to do it tomorrow, or if you want to do it like,
don't buy you flowers.
No, not on Valentine's Day.
Oh my gosh.
That's why you come the weekend. We celebrate the whole weekend, so no, it's just that, if for a dozen roses at Costco, or 2 dozen roses at BJ's or Publix, wherever it is, it's so less expensive during the year. But on Valentine's Day, you got to take out a mortgage for that. And it's just not worth it. If you feel, and I'm going to tell the men, if you feel that on Valentine's Day, you must spend a lot of money to make up for the rest of the year that you haven't loved your wife, or your wives, if you feel like you have to spend a lot of money to make up for the times that you didn't love your husband, that you don't need to do that. Just do it another day. It's just a market thing. It's a marketing ploy to get us to spend a lot of money.
You're saying, because you started the conversation with the love languages.
Yes.
If you happen to be someone whose love languages was gifts, then getting a nice gift on Valentine's Day would be really important to you.
That would be great, but don't buy it on Valentine's Day. It'll cost you 20 times more. I'm very efficient that way. My money is a terrible thing to waste. So, and so on Valentine's Day, that day is like, whatever you do on that day, it's going to cost you. So today, because Robert's love language is acts of service, I am going to make a wonderful meal that I know he'll like, and he gets to spend time with me. So it's a win-win, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So, and we're going to do it at home. We're not going to go out there where everybody's out there, and I'm not judging it. If you want to spend the money, go for it. It's your call. But for me, it's a waste of money. I'd rather use that money for something else at a different time. That's just what we've learned from one another. And what you can do is you can sit down with your spouse or your significant other, or even a friend, because like you said, that this goes well, that a relationship of 3 goes well with any relationship that we have, whether it's our children, our spouses, our best friends, or whatever. It's so important, but that we focus on the other person. Now, we can't neglect ourselves. It's not good for us to just pour everything out on the other person. We need to love on ourselves first, and God is in us. So take care of ourselves, nurture ourselves, not expect for somebody to do it for us. And so with that in mind, then you come from a place of abundance, and you can be a better person in that relationship for the other person. Would you like to?
Yeah, let me add to that. When we first got married, in the first short period of time, before we were married, we thought, oh my gosh, she's just like me. And you would say, he's just like me. But then as we got married, we think, you know what? She's not as much like me as I was hoping.
No,
But
she needs more like me. She needs to be more like me. And we change her.
So the goal back then in our infancy, if you will, was we wanted personal growth for the other person to become more like we wanted them to be. But it didn't take long for me to get to the point where I figured out that I need to let you be you and me be me.
Mhm.
But then as we got much more involved in our own personal growth, we made us individually, me individually, growing to be a priority, which means a willingness to figure out what may have happened in the past that shaped who I am, figuring out what may have happened in the past, which created some limiting beliefs in my head, which created a form of a filter in my eyes in terms of the way I see you and the way I see our relationship. It wasn't until we took that goal to grow ourselves individually that, again, not unlike the spokes in the wheel, we grew closer and closer together. So it was a total different goal. My goal was to grow. Your goal was to grow individually, personally, but the effect it had was very positive in terms of growing collectively or together as a couple.
Well, I would say that many times we fall in love with the differences. We fall in love with the differences of the other person because those are the things that are lacking in our lives. Like if you think about you and I, Robert, you and I are very different, but our common goal, our core value is identical. I believe that is so important in a relationship, that the core values be identical. Now, if you're an introvert or versus an extrovert or all that, that's all workable stuff. And I remember when we first got married and I would be the first one in the dance floor. Robert didn't like that. He did not like that one bit, not at all. He would like to wait until there's other people dancing and then we could go. Well, that's not me. I want to be the first one. And when the music, the sound hits, boom, I am ready to go. There's no thought process. I'm just ready to dance. But with Robert, there's a lot more thought process that goes with it. So we agreed that I would go out on the dance floor and I would dance with the crowd, whoever was there, I would dance with. But then after a while, he thought, I should be with her. I should be with her, right, Robert? That was your goal.
Yeah, I got to amend that slightly. You not only will be the first one on the dance floor, you'll be the last one on the dance floor. In other words, if we went out to a nightclub, you want to dance every song all night long, which to me, I think, okay, I bought a drink and I like to drink some of that drink. So I would dance with you a couple of drinks and I would say, you know what, I'd like to go sit down. So you might stay on the dance floor or you might come back and join me. But so you have that stamina, that energy, that dance energy that is different from me. I don't mind some dancing. I don't want to be dancing all night.
Yeah, but now you do.
Not all night. We don't go out to nightclubs as much anymore because we don't find as many. We like live bands as opposed to DJs. So.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, how important
versus DJs? You want to talk about that?
No, not live versus DJs, but I would like to talk about the fact that we were listening to music. Now I have always been a contemporary Christian music lover. I sing it, I dance it, I love it. And but I used to also love Pitbull. And one day I was working out and I was listening to Pitbull while I was working out, and I was listening to other artists that are similar to that would I thought was energizing me. But the role of music in my life is so important that I heard it for the first time. It was demeaning to women. It was demeaning to the sanctity of intimacy. It was demeaning to all those things. And we're putting all of that in our brain, in our life. Talk about, Robert, the importance of what you as a man put in your eyes, your ears, and the importance of music that is uplifting.
Well, I will say this, one of the differences between you and I is, and it could be because of what you just said, which was you have a depth of a background in Christian music. And not only that, but you've been a singer, a cantor, and it's been a big part of your life. Because of that, you listen to words, you listen to the meaning, and you kind of get involved in that. That's not me. I'm just listening to the beat. I'm dancing to the beat. And I might be able to tell you the chorus if I heard it enough times, but I don't listen to the details. I just get out there and move to the music and so forth. So in fact, it was kind of news to me, to be totally honest. It was news to me that you were hearing all these stories that were demeaning or not consistent with our values, because I didn't even hear it at all. I was just out there dancing. So we have definitely evolved or transitioned to listening almost totally to Christian artists, like Toby Mac and Crowder and some of the others that we listen to, and we find that we can dance to that music, and that we can enjoy it day to day. We have it in the background maybe when we're having a dinner, and so it is uplifting. And I know your question was broader than that. You're talking about what I allow to come in my eyes, what I allow to come in my brain, what I allow to see and smell and so forth. Those things are important. And those things can be happening without our conscious awareness. And so it is important to surround yourself with music, people, pictures, television shows, movies that are consistent with our values and don't go against those, because they can have an influence on us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hold on a second. I just did something here with I was playing around. Yep,
You
playing around.
You did look like you were kind of busy there. I don't know.
Yeah, I was a little busy because it's really important to listen to one another. And I just was, I wanted to, this information, by the way, is being blocked. All this, the world doesn't want us to talk about God. The world doesn't want us to talk about natural ways to heal. The world does not want, and so we can focus on what the world does not want, or we can focus on what God wants. We need to care more about what God wants than what the world wants. And that's why I wanted to do this class today with Robert. I also want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and go there and check out the conversations. I'm grateful. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday that I posted that I've reached 15,000 subscribers on my Facebook page. But let me tell you, every day, it seems like I'm almost there, and I get these notifications that you made it, you made it, you made it. But then a bunch of them are gone away. A bunch of them are gone away. And I've been told that people can't find me, people can't see me. And so what I would like to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, not only subscribe there, but go to my social media, like and follow me there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Odyssey, and start sharing this information. There's so much lack in this world, but reality is there's more abundance than there's lack. So join us in that, be part of the 99%, and allow us to share this good news with all of you. And so while you're there, check out my sponsors page, support our sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom, the Shop Now bag. I'd already shared that we have so many things going on. One of the things that I want to highlight today is on March 17th, 18th, and 19th, we have I Am the Solution. The I Am the Solution virtual workshop of the continuing education of the spirit and soul. Many of us forget that is important. That is important. And so please go to whenyouneedafriend.com, and there's going to be a pop-up there. Click on it and let's grow together. Let's make a decision to learn, not only what do I believe, what is my relationship with a higher power, and how do I put my life together so it is what I want. You don't have to be, like a lot of people think personal growth has to do with being messed up. Well, I don't need any personal growth. My life is good. But even tweaking can happen in our lives that will improve it, because we don't know what we don't know. And how do you know that there could be a better marriage or a better life or a better career or a better whatever it is, better health. So please join us at on March 17th, 18th, and 19th. And there is early registration. Space is very, very limited. Robert is my number one fan. You've been on all my workshops, and
the truth is that, just let me say quickly, each one I learned something new. Each one, because we're always in a position we could benefit, we can grow, we can think, and so they're all been beneficial.
Yeah, and last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. So whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation of your time, your talent, your treasure, all of it is so appreciated. Today we have my partner in life, I would say partner in crime, but there is no crime here. The only crime is that we love each other too much. So what I wanted him to come on because I feel that it is important to show marriages that are great. That, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. But both of us have the ability to come together in those moments that we haven't been quite in our essence. Sometimes we're in our ego, and we just need to know when we're going back and forth. And when we're in our ego, we're edging God out. And when we are in our essence, we are embracing the God that is in us. And God is good all the time. Well, I'm not good all the time. So I go through ebbs and flows, and so does Robert, and so do my friends, and so does my family, so do our children. Everybody goes through this, but we do need to identify that. And I know that you've talked about your ego, not just your ego, our collective ego that makes us feel separate and one. Would you like to share a time, Robert, that you felt that you were alone or one, and that it was through faith and God that you realized that you were not alone?
Yeah, I'm not so much sure that it's connected to ego, but or essence. But there certainly was a time, a few years ago that I had gone through a very rough time in my career. And, we owned a business that was in the housing industry. So back in the 2007, 8, 9 timeframe, as the housing market crashed, so did our business. And I had invested my whole self in that business to make it as successful as I could. We had lots of employees and lots of assets, and we had lots of customers, but it didn't work out. So we had to shut down that business. And I felt personally responsible. I had years and years and years of business training, business consulting, and I thought, what was wrong that I couldn't salvage that business and keep it going and provide for my family and so forth and so on. And I remember thinking, several months after that, about being in a boat, going down a river in a storm. We were moving down rapids. I was in this boat, and I didn't have any paddles to navigate. And I remember praying, why is this all happening to me? And I shared that with you, and I shared it in my prayers. And the answer came to me from God and from you that I'm not alone, that you were in the boat with me, that God was with us, and that we were going to get through this. And it happened for a reason. There was a purpose. It helped me grow. It helped me change my relationship with God. It helped me change my relationship with you. It helped me be less in my ego and more into my essence. So maybe that's what you were.
Well, I'm glad that you shared that story. I had no idea what you were going to say. Remember, we're not rehearsed here, but I remember that, and that was one of the things that we did because our marriage was being tested at that time, and we decided. And remember, that was our deal. If we ever felt that we wanted to walk away from the marriage, that we would tell each other first. And I remember saying to you, I'm going to call you out on this one because you said that you would be willing to go to marriage encounter with me whenever we needed that. And you said, book it. So sometimes we as a couple need to make a deal to come together with a date, and what I love about Worldwide Marriage Encounter is that you can be whatever denomination. You don't even have to be a believer to go to this. And it's a wonderful workshop. And I don't get any benefit from this other than from attending that. Robert and I, we were also presenting couple. We went back and we learned how to become a presenting couple, but this is lay people telling their story of trials in their marriage. There was clergy there, but it was primarily run by couples, and their talks were highly looked at and worked with, and we went through that process as well. It was a painful process for both Robert and I to come up with our talk. But the reality is, everybody goes through trials in their marriage, and whether you are a strong Christian or not a strong Christian, sometimes we tend to blame one another, and then in our shame, we turn away from our partner. And the story in our head is, I'm not worthy, or they're embarrassed of me, or they're ashamed of me, or I failed them. That's the story. And that's when you guys, everybody needs to make a pact that it's important that a marriage be the number one priority through God, of course, and that you will do everything you possibly can to work on that. What are the deficiencies? Not only in the marriage, but we talk about that with the body and the spirit too. And so when we made that decision that I said, okay, I think we need to do something here. At the time, Robert was working in Tampa. I was living in Cocoa, and it was about 8 or 9 months, right, Robert, that you were going back and forth.
It was like that. It was like 6 or 7 months. When I actually went over there to when I stopped going over there, it was about 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, and it was.
But we went to Worldwide Marriage Encounter was maybe after I'd gone to Tampa by 5 or 6 months.
Yeah. And I remembered because, and this is the part where God is so important in a relationship. Yes, our marriage, our business had to be shut down because of the housing crisis and the liar loans and all those things that we didn't know. Yes, that happened. But what it set a series of events where I started working outside the home again. And because of that, I am here today talking to you guys, and Robert is here today. Had that not happened, who knows what our lives would have been like. But what I'm saying is that with God, even if it's a terrible situation like that was in our life, it wasn't the end of our life. It was the beginning of a new journey for us. And going to Worldwide Marriage Encounter at that time, when he was over there and I was over here, and when we would come together on the weekends, there were family gatherings, things with the kids, things with friends. We hardly had any time together, let alone time together with God, other than church on Sunday. And that to me is not enough. And so, and I remember when that realization, that story that you're sharing, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but the story that you shared about you being in the boat by yourself and me telling you, I'm in that boat. You're just not looking. You're just not seeing me in that boat. I remember that at that moment, we made the decision that you were going to start working with me, that you weren't going to leave, you weren't going to go anymore. And we made our marriage a priority. And I think that was the start of us realizing that personal growth, whether it's with each other or apart, is so important to a marriage. Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I would. What was going on in my mind at the time was, I got to figure this out. I had depended upon myself, my upbringing, my education, my experience, and that experience that, some people believe that including me, that God is in control of all the circumstances in our lives, and they're all meant for a purpose. And so one of the things that was so critical for me was to let go of that, I got to do this on my own. I got to figure it out by myself. I got, because that wasn't working. And I started to rely on you. I started to rely on God. I started to rely on others to help me go forward and thrive. And so, what a blessing that was to let that go and not feel like it's all up to me.
And not hide either. Sometimes we tend to hide when we have emotions like this of shame or guilt or not enough or not feeling like I have to control this and I have to make it right. The beauty of it is that in Romans 8, which is one of my favorite chapters, scriptures, I love them all, but Romans 8 is the one that to me sums who I am. And, like if you don't know what to say, the Holy Spirit that groans, and God hears those groanings and understands, God works things out for the good of all, not just me, not just you. And so when you're going through trials in a relationship, it's so easy. And trust me, I went through that feeling like it's so much easier to just walk away from this relationship and, then figure it out. And the reality is, for all couples out there, if you are in that moment that you feel that it's a lot easier for you to walk away from this relationship, and it may be true, there may be abuse, there may be other things that are contributing to it. But let's say, there's that you guys have stopped communicating with one another, and maybe it feels better to be with other people. But the reality is, if you fell in love once, you can make that choice to do it again, but sometimes you can't do it alone. And I want to talk about Retrouvaille. We talked about Worldwide Marriage Encounter, that's wwme.org. And there's also Retrouvaille, which Retrouvaille is, the name of Retrouvaille is helpourmarriage.org. Nobody could spell Retrouvaille. And so they change it, smart move, Retrouvaille, helpourmarriage.org. So if your marriage is in crisis, or you've gotten a divorce and you just want to learn how to get along with the other person, learn the tools to communicate. I've seen miracles happen at Retrouvaille, but you learn tools. And so it is worth it to just try one more thing every time. But if there's abuse, that's a deal breaker. If there's a behavior that is abusive of the other person, unless the other person chooses to change and get help for that, I stay away from them for about a year, or 6 months to a year, because people can change for a short time. They just can't change for a long period of time. Take your time making these decisions, because you're going to be tied up with them, especially if you have children, for the rest of your life. Because you think that, once the kids graduate from high school, we'll split, and I'm just gonna sail by and just like, what is it? What's that terminology, Robert? You're always good when I can't figure out a word. It's like when the status quo, I guess. I'm just gonna continue. Did you come up with a different word?
Stay the course.
Stay the course, but not do anything different. The path of least resistance, I don't know. Just stay on the line without making a difference or change. And then once the kids graduate from high school, then we'll split up. But guess what? Those kids will graduate from high school, they'll graduate from college, then they'll get married. If they become, if they have children, now it's the children. You will be forever linked with that person. Don't you think it would be worth a try? Any final words, Robert, before you go? Because Robert has a lot of things that he does for the classroom. And so he's reminding me that it's time for him to go. So
yeah, I do. I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
Last night, you made crab cakes,
but they're not crab cakes, they're jack cakes.
Okay, so I was just going to say that.
Okay.
Somebody asked the question, are there crabs in there? And so Lillian said no, but it's a gluten-free vegan crab cake. Mm-hmm. But what we noticed is that in order for this to work, there are so many different ingredients that have to come together and, if you will, bind together, that it takes some kind of a binder to help with that. So Lillian, being allergic to dairy, doesn't use eggs or butter or anything like that. She uses some kind of flaxseed oil or something. So that made me think about our relationship and God. God is a binder for us. There's a lot of things that go on in our relationship that make it complex, that make it difficult to try to work together. But if we have God in our lives and we count on God and spend time with God together and apart, God is like a binder that helps our marriage come together and stay together.
That's a great way to end the class today. Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing your time with us and for always being open. And I'm going to say this again. I've said it before. Half the stuff I do in my life, I could not do it without having a partner as wonderful as you. So thank you for your support and everything that you do to lift me up, especially when I need a little breath of fresh air to perk me up. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for all you do for me as well.
Thank you. Okay, it's time to work. Go do your thing. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Now, are we perfect all the time? No, but the more you make God the center of your relationship, the quicker it is to ask for forgiveness. Not just say, I'm sorry, ask for forgiveness. The quicker it is to identify there's a deficiency in the relationship. No different than if you get a diagnosis of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, there is a deficiency in the body. You would never say it's my DNA. You would never say that anymore when you listen to the classroom. You would know if there's something in the marriage that you feel this way and you feel this way. And the further you are in the relationship, the further you are out is the further you are from God. And so God is in each and every one of us, and we just need to figure out how to tap into that. I want to encourage you to go to the I Am the Solution virtual workshop. It's the continuing education of the spirit and soul. And this is something that we also need to be conscious of. We invest all our time in our businesses and our careers, but we spend very little time expanding our education when it comes to self growth and understanding and embracing a higher power. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were talking about that they wanted to fight for their marriage. And yeah, that's fine. But violence never ends well. We want to embrace and love each other, embrace our marriages, and embrace who we are as individuals and as and as a couple. Learn about how can I love you the best today? Because I need to ask myself that question too. In the mirror, ask yourself, how can I love myself best today? And when you love yourself, know that God is in you. And so how do you nurture that relationship? Whether it's God within you or God outside of you or whoever your higher power is, ask yourself the question first. How can I become one with that God? And not rely on my partner to bring me the joy and all those things that happiness and fortune or whatever it is. Know that you're enough to figure it out, that God will give you what you need when you need it. But the icing of the cake is when you come together with your partner, who also loves God and also is asking themselves, how can I love myself first? So that when we both come together, we're coming from a place of abundance, not just me by myself, but me and God, who are an overwhelming majority, are falling in love with Robert and God, who is also an overwhelming majority. And together we can do all things because God in us, there's no other solution than the God in us. So thank you. I want to thank Robert, who is busy getting the music set and all the things that he does to make the classroom run smoothly. And for those of you who joined us today, thank you so much for joining. Hey, Robert, you're not going to come on and do the ever with me? And please remember, come on. Oh, I guess you can just not do it. Okay. And please remember, this is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. He's busy. He's busy.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Thank you so much for watching today. I'm so grateful for Robert coming on today. And just know that Valentine's Day is every day of the year. And so today is the day that most people acknowledge it, but acknowledge it every day. Tell everybody you love that you love them, or everybody that you know that you love them. Don't keep that to yourself, because God, if you would describe one thing about God, is God is love. That is all that matters in a relationship, that we love one another as God has loved us. And so we will see you tomorrow. Dr. Joel Furman is going to be in the classroom.